Good morning, students. Myself, Dr. Ram Kumar. I am professor in Mallareddy Engineering College for Women. Today, our topic is Introduction to Blockchain. First of all, what is blockchain? To understand blockchain, we have to understand that block and as well as the chain. So, whenever we consider it as a blockchain, block is nothing but collection of transactions, and the chain means that all these transactions will be chained together. So the collection of blocks is a chain of blocks. We are calling it as a collection of block, which is every block consists of several number of transactions. Every block consists of a several number of transactions, and these blocks are going to be connected together by means of a cryptography. So every block consists of several number of transactions like this way. These all are transactions. Now, whenever we call it as a transactions, what is the meaning of a transaction? Suppose, if I am talking about an example of a banking, then in the bank, in general, whenever a person is transferring some money from one account to other account, then we use it to call it as a transaction. Similarly, here also, from one account to the other account, suppose if we are passing some cryptocurrency by means of a bitcoins or any other coins, then it is going to be noted as a transaction. So like this way, there are several number of transactions will occur, and these transactions will be stored in a block, and every block is having some restricted number of transactions. Unlike the database, in general, database having a several number of transactions we can store it. But in blockchain, in a particular block, we can store only few number of transactions only. So whenever how many transactions we can store it? Generally, that depends upon the type of the blockchain we are using it. Now here, suppose I am going to consider as I am not talking about the size of the block as of now. I am talking with respect to the number of transactions for ease of use. And suppose I am taking it as 100 transaction can be stored in a particular block. Now, after 100 transaction, if I get it as a 101 transaction, then what happens? So another block will be created, and the 101, 102, 103 like this way it will be stored. And these two things, this is the earlier block and this is the current new block, and these two blocks will be linked together by means of a cryptography. So what is the cryptography? That we will discuss it in the later part of the session. But as of now, we are going to connect the several number of blocks by using a cryptography concept. Similar to in a linked list, we use it to connect the several number of list elements by means of an address. Similarly, here also we are connecting the several number of blocks by means of a cryptography. Now, so the next point is now what a block. As I discussed that a block is nothing but a collection of transactions, and that what I represented with a data, and in this data in this data, I have a data is there in a block, and there is a transaction hash is there. So for every transaction here we are going to talk with respect to a transaction hash. What is the transaction hash also we will discuss in further classes, and it will be stored that hash of a previous block also. So that is what we are going to call it as a block. And then now, so these will be stored like this way. This is my current block. Suppose if I am talking about this is a one block. If this is my one block, and this address of this one will be stored in the other block as a previous transaction hash. And if I am talking about this block will be consist of this block transaction hash, and as well hash of this particular block and the previous block hash also. So like this way it will be stored. Now, so whenever we call it as a to understand about the blockchain, we have to understand these four terms. One is called as a shared ledger, second one is a cryptography, and third one is a trust systems and business rules and smart contracts. These four terms we have to understand to know about a blockchain. First of all, what is the meaning of a shared ledger? Generally, the meaning of ledger is whenever we have a particular scenario, suppose if I am going for a shopping, then in my current balance is suppose 500 rupees. If I am purchasing fruits for 50 rupees, and if I purchase vegetables for 150 rupees, and what is my current ledger balance means that we call it as a 300 rupees. So similarly, here also in the blockchain, we have to be considered as there are several number of transactions are happening, and among the several number of nodes there are several number of nodes will be connected, and these nodes are going to be shared the data. Now suppose I am having suppose I am going to talk about I have a one node, two node, third node, and fourth node. These are the four nodes which are connected as a peer-to-peer. What does it mean? That I will discuss it in the later part. This is my one node and another node, and this is another node. I have a nodes, several number of nodes which are connected like this way. And what is the meaning of node here? Node is nothing but our system. So if I am considering it as four different systems connected together logically peer-to-peer, then I can say it is a blockchain. It was connected together. And so suppose now what these nodes means that our own systems only. Now every system consists of a ledger. In ledger, it is having what is the value of A, what is the value of B, what is the value of C, and what is the value of D. Now, what does it mean? Suppose I am having for A having a 2.5 BTC, Bitcoin values, and for B suppose 7.2 BTC, and for C there are suppose 5 BTC, and for D suppose 2 BTC. I am having it. This is the current ledger which I am having it right now. Now suppose B wants to transfer 1.2 BTC to D. So that B wants to transfer 1.2 1.2 BTC to D. Then whenever this transaction executed, then it has to be updated that in the B I am having a only 6 BTC, and for D it is having a 3.2 BTC. Now will it consist of only one node? Means that no. This is the ledger which it consists of each and every node of a system. So that is what we call it as it's a shared ledger. So every node will be connected and those all will share their knowledge. That is what is the current balance of the network. That is the shared ledger, what we call it as. Now, how many nodes are there in the blockchain network? Means that suppose if I am considering it as a Bitcoin blockchain network, there are lakhs of nodes are available in the market. But I'm giving you only for 4 nodes, but in general there are lakhs of nodes available. Now that is my what we call as a shared ledger. And what is the meaning of cryptography? The major part of major advantage of the blockchain is cryptography, which it means that we are providing the data security by means of a cryptography. We are going to use security mechanisms in the various levels when we are talking about a blockchain. So those all things we will discuss in the further sessions, but we are going to getting the network security by using a cryptography concept. And generally when we are talking about a blockchain is a decentralized mechanism. When we call it as a decentralized mechanism, the basic difference between the centralized mechanism to the decentralized mechanism is centralized mechanism means that I am having a one node is there and every of us we connected through this one. That is my centralized mechanism. Now our database is following the same mechanism. Whereas if I am talking about the decentralized, now our blockchain network is a decentralized mechanism. So here I can say it as it's a client server technology, right? So your database server is there. Suppose when we are talking about our banking is a client server, uses the client server technology. Suppose if I want to transfer some amount from my account to my friend account, then that transaction will be done through this person, through this server. So that is why we call it as it's a centralized. Whereas in the blockchain, it won't be happening like this way. It won't be happening like this way. Here, it will be done by using what we call as a consensus mechanism. So whenever I have a decentralized system, then who is going to authorize your transaction? So for that we are going to talk about a consensus mechanism here in order to talk about the decentralized system. And there are a concept is there called as a trust systems and business rules and smart contracts. What does it mean? Whenever I talk about a business rules and smart contracts, so generally a blockchain is majorly meant for a value transfer. When we are doing the value transfer, then what is the need of technological persons like us? Means that yes, that blockchain I can use it to write my own program and deploy it in a blockchain by using a smart contract. What is the meaning of it? Smart contract is nothing but a program only, which we are writing it similarly like C or C++ or Java, like that way only. Here also we can write our own program and we can deploy it by using a blockchain. So that is what we are going to write it a smart contract. So I am closing this session for this particular point, and in the next session we are going to discuss further about the blockchain.